Am I the a-hole for doing nothing for the child my ex-wife had from her affair, even now that I have primary custody of our kids? 6 months ago, I, 36 male, learned that my ex-wife, 37, was cheating on me. I ended our marriage and filed for divorce, but everything was delayed because she was pregnant. Once her child was born and it was established that I was not the biological father, my name was removed from the birth certificate and the bio father's name was added. They were a couple at this point. I was lucky that he was claiming the child at the time and DNA tests were done on both of us. Otherwise, it might have been a different story. Throughout, we shared 50-50 custody of our 3 children together. My kids were old enough to figure out what happened. I got them therapy eventually after my ex resisted putting them in therapy and we had talks about everything. I did my best to reassure them that they didn't need to hate anyone for me or reject anyone on my behalf. But their relationship with their mom never recovered, and the relationship with her youngest never existed from what I know. The affair partner took off 3 years ago, and since then my ex-wife has requested that I take an active part in her child's life because I'm so involved in our kids' lives. Each and every time she's made this request via parenting app, I have firmly said no. She tried to take full custody of our kids because I refused to include her youngest, and a judge told her it didn't work like that, and I did not have a legal responsibility to her youngest child. I ended up with primary custody of my children a year ago because my ex-wife made some very bad decisions and not only lost the house she was staying in, but lost her job and had no savings and overall was left with next to nothing. After this happened, her requests for me to do something for her child increased. I ignored them for the most part and did as I was instructed to do by my lawyer and replied to the ones that indicated I was responsible for ensuring the child was adequately cared for. Those I did say no to and reminded her there were places she could go if she needed help feeding her youngest. Our kids still go to her house for her every other weekend visitation and they hate it, which angers my ex because they have zero relationship with her youngest, and it angers her that I won't ensure that all of the kids have a good relationship and that her youngest knows what it's like to have a fatherly figure. She said she would allow me to adopt her child if I was willing. Then she said she would at least like me to do something, to express some care for her child, send birthday and Christmas gifts, send food occasionally, offer to let her child join in for some activities. I do none of this. I've asked my kids if they'd like to spend more time with their half-sibling or give gifts, but they've always said no, and they told me when they can make the decision not to go to their mom's house, they won't have anything to do with her child either. My ex has become more angry because there are things her child's missed out on, and apparently they ask more questions now. Some of her messages on the app are now extremely hostile. There's nothing I can do about this for the moment, but they're saved, so if we end up back in court, they can be shown. She told me I act like I'm such a good person, but I treat a child like shit. I don't feel bad exactly. I know I'd have a very hard time being around this child, and they're innocent, so I prefer to stay away and not let them feel the weight of my issues with their mother and how they were conceived. But maybe that makes me an awful person. I know at the end of all this is a child who's only got my ex and nobody else. And the child's innocent, like I stated. Which brought me here to ask you, am I the a-hole? Edit. From what I know, the father is avoiding all responsibility since he left. She had sued for child support, but gets none. That was what she showed the judge anyway. As for extended family, I don't think she ever knew this guy's family. Her own are not close. My attitude toward their mother has not played a role in their bad relationship with her. The choices she made have, and even her choices of affair partner did to an extent. I did what I could. I put them into therapy to try and help them have the best relationships they could, but they don't want them. I've told them they do not need to hate anyone for me, that they don't need to reject people for me. These topics have been talked about in therapy, but they've remained steady in what they want, and actually, they feel stronger than ever. My ex made a lot of bad decisions, which is why she lost 50-50 custody of our kids. She's fucked up her life, and it was decided it was in the kids' best interest to live primarily with me. The fact they wanted to did not play a role because it was how they felt and what they wanted. I think if I could love or care about that child, it could potentially be good for them, or it could alienate them from everyone more. But I could not show them that. I don't believe my kids would blame me for how their half-sibling is grown up. To be honest, I'm not sure they'll ever care about their half-sibling. Not the a-hole. You're under no legal or moral obligation to step into a father role for a child that resulted from your ex-wife's affair, especially after she repeatedly disrespected your boundaries and trust. It's tragic that the child's in this situation, but that's a consequence of your ex's actions and the biological father's absence, not yours. You've kept your kids out of it as much as possible, even given them the choice about their relationship with their half-sibling. And they've been clear, they don't want that connection. Forcing it would not only be unfair to them, it would likely create more resentment for everyone involved, including the child in question. Your ex seems more concerned with outsourcing her responsibilities than actually repairing her own relationship with all of her children. It's not your job to fix her mistakes or fill the gap she and the AP left. You're protecting your own emotional health and your kids' boundaries. That doesn't make you an ass. I think everyone sucks. You have a bias against this kid and don't want to have anything to do with him. Fine. But I think subconsciously or consciously, you are directing how your children view this child. As children, they should not be party to you and your ex's relationship problems. This poor child did nothing wrong but be born and has 3 siblings that should be embracing them. Instead, they're ignoring them. Why? Because you are leading by example and they know or have figured out or might even blame this kid for your marriage breakup. I'm not saying you become this kid's dad, but you need to start with a change in attitude in how you talk about him to and around your kids so they have a chance to build a relationship. The child is not your enemy. I don't actually understand how you can have a woman birth 3 children for you and then leave her struggle feeding your children's sibling. I know she cheated. She's wrong. Don't take her back, yada yada, but I don't know. I couldn't look the mother of my children in her eye and let her struggle to survive, struggle to see our own children, etc. over an affair. If she hurt the kids, then sure, but otherwise, everybody here's just so hungry for vengeance and justice and what she deserves that it's just an echo chamber. I wonder if you realize how much happiness being nice to this child could bring you. They might show you respect, light up when they see you, bring a little joy to your life you weren't expecting. Absolutely not your responsibility, but you're encouraging your own children to actively dislike their half-sibling under the guise of them being old enough to make their own decisions. That's not nice. I also know plenty of ex-partners who play an active part in the lives of their children's younger half-siblings by being a friendly person. None of them act like you. Would it really be too difficult to acknowledge the child and throw a little kindness their way? I don't think your ex should make demands, but I do think you yourself could be a kinder person to this kid. Story 2. From my side of it, I can see how easy it was for him to believe I was the perfect girlfriend. I did everything I could to be that person for him. I took care of him, gave him space when he needed it, listened when he wanted to talk, made sure he knew he mattered. I wanted him to feel safe with me, and for the most part, I think he did. But underneath that, I was making choices that completely betrayed that trust. I cheated on him 3 times that I've admitted to. I can tell myself I didn't mean for it to happen, or that I was drunk, or that the circumstances were messy, but those are excuses. The truth is, I knew each time I was crossing a line, and I did it anyway. He had no proof for the longest time, but I could feel something shifting in him. His mood changed. His questions started to get sharper. I knew he was upset, and I could tell he sensed something was off, maybe even more than I was ready to admit. When he finally asked if I'd cheated since we got back together, I started small. I told him about kissing a guy while drunk a few nights earlier. I thought maybe if I admitted to something less, it would ease his suspicions, but he pressed, and I knew there was no point hiding everything. I told him about hooking up with a guy I knew from high school before we broke up the first time. Still, he didn't stop asking, and my gut told me he already knew there was more. So I told him about the time I hooked up with a friend of mine last summer. I remember when we ran into him a couple months after it happened, how he barely looked at my boyfriend and got out of there fast. I knew in that moment my boyfriend had put it together. even if he didn't say it. Hearing his reaction hurt, not because I didn't deserve it, but because I saw the way he was processing not just my betrayal, but the fact that he'd ignored his own instincts to trust me. I know I made him question himself when he shouldn't have. I let him believe in the version of me that I showed him, all while being someone else when he wasn't around. Right now, he says he's more sad than angry, and I can feel that. I've left him feeling ashamed, disgusted, and questioning his own judgment. I hate knowing I did that to someone who cared about me so deeply. If there's anything I've learned today, it's that he was right all along. People really can sense the truth without needing evidence. And I took advantage of the fact that he wanted to believe in me more than he wanted to believe his gut. I just hope this isn't the end of us.